The night she left is etched into my memory like a burn that never fades. It was raining. Cliché, I know. And she didn't even wait until the kids were asleep. She stood in the living room, suitcase in hand, eyes distant. I remember our youngest, Daniel, clinging to her leg, crying, "Mommy, where are you going?" And she just looked at me and said, "I can't do this anymore. I need to live my truth." Her truth, apparently, was a man named Ethan from her yoga class. She left that night without a glance back. No goodbyes, no remorse, just silence and the sound of our front door clicking shut. I stood there stunned, holding the broken pieces of what used to be our family. I had to pull myself together fast. 3 kids, no warning, no mother, just me, and the harsh reality that the woman I loved had chosen someone else. The first year was hell. Rachel, our oldest, stopped talking for months. Jake, barely 10 at the time, got into fights at school. Daniel cried himself to sleep more times than I can count. And me? I worked 2 jobs, packed lunches, braided hair, helped with homework, cried in the shower, and forced a smile every damn day. People whispered. Some blamed me, others pitied me. But no one really understood. No one saw how hard I tried to keep our home. Standing while the woman who was supposed to be my partner played house with another man. And she never called. Not once. No birthday cards, no apologies, not even a check for child support. It was like she'd vanished. Like we were just a chapter she'd decided to skip. But I didn't let her absence define us. I raised my kids with love, discipline, and honesty. I taught them not to hate her. But I didn't lie to them either. They grew up knowing their mother had chosen herself over them. And still, they became incredible people. Rachel became a nurse. Jake opened his own auto shop in Kansas City. Daniel, sweet, fragile Daniel, joined the army. I couldn't be prouder. I had done it. We had done it. Without her. So when I opened the door 21 years later and saw her standing there, hair grayer, eyes tired, suitcase in hand just like before, my first instinct wasn't anger. It was confusion. And then, coldly, I asked, "Why now?" She didn't answer at first. She just stared at me like I was the one who had disappeared. I made a mistake," she finally whispered. Her voice cracking with the kind of sorrow I used to beg for years ago. Back when I wanted closure, when I wanted answers, when I cried alone at 2 a.m, wondering what I'd done wrong. But now I felt nothing but an eerie stillness. The kids were grown. My life was stable, peaceful. And here she was, trying to shake the dust off the past like it hadn't been over 2 decades of silence. "Ethan died 3 months ago," she continued, her hands trembling. "I've been alone ever since. I thought maybe we could talk." She looked past me like she was expecting to be welcomed back into our house, like no time had passed. I didn't move. I didn't open the door any wider. I simply looked at her, at the lines on her face, the bags under her eyes, and thought about every single moment she missed. Every scraped knee, every birthday, every graduation. Rachel was the first to hear about her reappearance. She was livid, not sad, not curious, just furious. "She doesn't get to come back after 21 years and pretend she still matters," she said over the phone. Jake didn't say much. He just made a low sound in his throat and muttered, "She's got guts. I'll give her that." Daniel, always the peacemaker, simply asked, "Are you okay, Dad?" None of them wanted to see her. None of them asked where she'd been or how she was. They had built their lives without her. We all had. And now she was here, acting like time owed her a second chance. "I want to get to know them again," she said, standing in my front yard like she hadn't detonated a bomb in our lives 2 decades ago. "I want to make amends." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the audacity was staggering. "You don't get to want things now," I told her. "You gave up that right." Still, part of me couldn't just slam the door. I wasn't that man. I invited her to sit on the porch. I made her tea. I listened. She told me how her life with Ethan had fallen apart, how the freedom she once craved became a cage, how he never wanted kids, how she missed hers, how regret clawed at her every night. But none of it changed anything. I looked her in the eye and said, "They're not your kids anymore." And I meant it. She had walked out on them. And now she wanted to walk back in just because her new life didn't turn out the way she planned. The days that followed were strange. Quiet, but not the good kind. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm, when everything looks intact on the surface. But you know, something shifted underneath. Rachel messaged me again. She better not come near me or my kids. Jake didn't even bother pretending to be civil. Tell her if she wants a reunion, she should go dig through the ashes of what she burned. And Daniel, sweet Daniel, the only one who still called me every Sunday like clockwork, gently said, "You did everything, Dad. You were both parents. She doesn't deserve a place in our story anymore." And he was right. I thought about every school event I attended alone. Every night I sat by Rachel's bed while she cried over a mother she barely remembered. The way Jake stopped talking altogether for almost a year after she left. And how I used to lie awake, wondering if one day she'd regret it. Now I knew she did. But regret isn't a key. It doesn't unlock doors. It just reminds you of all the one you slammed shut. One afternoon, she left a letter on the porch. No knocking, no conversation. Just an envelope tucked under the doormat like some fragile offering. Inside was a photo. Us, years ago. Before the betrayal, before the pain. She'd written on the back, "I'm sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I just wanted to say goodbye properly this time." That night, I stared at that photo for hours. Not because I missed her, but because I didn't. That version of her, the woman I married, died the day she chose someone else over the life we built. The woman who stood at my door weeks ago was a stranger. And I owed that stranger nothing. Not my time, not my kids, not my heart. A month later, Daniel and I stood outside grilling steaks in the backyard. The grandkids were running through the sprinkler, laughter echoing through the air. Rachel and her husband were on their way. Jake had texted earlier, "Don't start the beer without me." And in that moment, surrounded by the family I raised, the family she left, I felt a quiet peace. Not the kind that follows a storm, but the kind that comes from knowing you survived one. I'd carried the weight of her betrayal for years, and now, finally, I'd set it down. She may have walked away all those years ago, but I walked forward, and I never looked back.